Hello there everyone, welcome back to Around the Grid. We're about to continue where we left off and get started on our second season. First season here went fairly well, acceptable at last with 135 points, 6th place. A little bit scuffed with some weather, but it is what it is. We should still be perfectly fine. We do have some new things happening next season, but I believe everything is sorted so we can just get started. But yeah, we ended up 6th. Bottas was our best driver in 7th, and we did win the championship. So the plan for the second season is fairly straightforward and simple. We're going to be splitting the season up into 4 parts. There's going to be a focus on the early season, the end of the season, and then we're going to split the races in between into basically 2 parts. So hopefully, should get this season done over the next couple of weeks. We'll have to see what ends up in terms of recording time. Might go a little bit shorter, but that is the plan so far. Just want to let you guys know. So yeah, we'll be doing this series kind of more of a bigger picture thing where it's less, more races done per episode and potentially a little bit longer episodes. But hopefully that should make it so that I am done with this before potentially the next game comes out. With that said though, we are ready. Let us jump into the next season here. See what we have in store for us. The new season target for the board is to hit 8th, apparently, I would assume. We can accept a new target or switch team. We're going to accept a new target because we are going to have to, win before we leave the team. Next up, sponsor obligations here, race hospitality, driver appearance. We have 2 older drivers here, so we can actually just do this and say that, oh, both our drivers will make media appearances. We'll make a little bit extra money for the team because most likely we'll be leaving at the end of this one. Race hospitality, pit crew's performance will decrease. Again, it's not worth 300,000. If it was 364,000 per appearance, then maybe. But as you see, total 364, and each appearance is worth barely 24 million. So 24 million, 24,000. If it was 24 million, I'd beat the sour apple for one season. I'd be the dominant. But it's $24,000. It's not worth the loss of performance, in my honest opinion. Now we do have a decent amount of pre-season money, so we're going to put in 3,000 merchandise units. We're going to be paying 10 million upfront, but we'll make back around 15 million as a result. The others here, we're not really interested in. As you can see, they barely pay out anything. Racing pay out 141, but I'd rather take the driver experience. Honestly, we could do this for this one, but it's not worth it, honestly. You won't have too many financial problems where it would be an issue. So that's what we're going with. It's pretty simple. We have a sponsorship value of 102 million. And with that, the balance is 37 million. We do have to pick the car. Sorry, not the car. The engine, though. That's going to be one thing. And in terms of the regulations here, we did a little bit of chassis research. Got a little bit boosted for next year. Front wing, we beat the regulation handedly here. So that should be a fairly significant boost. As you can see, 20% in brake cooling, airflow sensitivity, airflow front, and also the low speed cornering here. It's going to be massively upgraded compared to last year. The rear wing, once again, handily beat the regulations here, about 20% across the board. Kind of same here as with the front wing, although the rear wing isn't as important for its cornering ability. We rather care about the drag reduction and DRS delta. The side pods, 15% across the board, definitely helpful. 15% here for the underflow as well. Didn't get as much development as the rear wing and front wing, but the underflow was the most developed part anyway, so it's not actually a huge concern. Suspension, also up there, almost 20%. If we go one more research there, all 3 of them would be on par, but every single piece has had significant gains here, between 15 to 20%, with the exception of the chassis, who we, didn't develop that much, but again, we can catch up with that during the season if we really want to. No real changes here to the financial situation. Well, sorry, there is a change here in the financial situation of the season price share. So it won't matter for us. We will most likely take over the team that finishes 10th. So honestly, not actually an issue for us at all. We'll just deal with that as we go. Powertrain manufacturers here is basically a different one. We're going to be picking a different one, but there are some other changes here that I kind of almost skipped over. The safety testing limit has been changed. We ended up 6th, so we get actually more. But again, 10th position here is going to have a bit more of a CFD boost. Again, each one of these hours, each one of these units, in this case 84, because they go in 0.1 increments, each one of these units is a day of expertise gain. So you can imagine that if you put CFD 84 plus 112, you basically have around 200 days of extra development from just one CFD period. You get 6 of those. So you basically can put 4 years worth of development as a lower end team into a pod if you really want to put, you know, 6 CFD periods into it. But that's just going to be way powerful for us. It's going to help us boost our car quickly, potentially allowing us to win in our first season after we switch team later on. So currently we are with the Ferrari engines. They're not bad, let's be honest. They're still pretty good. We are probably just going to jump over to the Red Bull engines though. And the reason for that is no matter if we're with Ferrari, you know, Mercedes, Ferrari's main benefit here is the ERS durability. The engines aren't actually that different in terms of the power, but I'd rather take more durable gearboxes, a little bit of thermal resistance, and generally just have that extra power, and maybe, again, have to buy a couple of extra things. But to me, Red Bull is still probably the better engine to pick. Again, ERS is something we'll have to buy another one of anyways, as soon as something happens. Apparently here we have a bit of an interesting situation where we have Show still showed up there for a second in a Aston Martin suit. But this is our driver lineup for Season 2. We have got Alonso, and we might just go for getting him a world title here too, as a bit of a fun one, honestly. So Show improved before he left, same with Balthasar. New regulations are, in fact, we kind of have gone through them. Sponsoring Alessandro Galata. So honestly, sure, we'll sponsor him. It's just 100k. I don't mind. We can now start designing new car parts for Bahrain in 53 days. CFD is up and running. As you can see, we have 6 miles, 80 wind tunnel hours. These 6 miles are actually 60 units. The wind tunnel here is 80 units. So we have actually 140 units or 140 days of expertise gain stored up right now that we can put anywhere we desire. Of course, when you do that for design, you have to make a second part, but we'll go through that once we get into it. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how this is going to work out. Pit crew performance, apparently our pit crew has perished. They're down to 25 across the board. I guess that is the lower end. Well, the error chance then is up to about 20%. That's going to make life a little bit difficult. But we'll have a look at the training schedule in just a second. We have stuck with the you know, team members that we had. And as I said, I am tempted to just say that we can't change out any of our staff or drivers unless their contracts run out, just to make this a little bit more challenging. But again, it's not a big concern. In terms of developing car parts here, we'll be going for the chassis immediately. I don't think we're going to be putting any safety time into it, however. And the reason for that is very simple. Chassis is incredibly good for cornering ability in high-speed corners, but I don't think we're going to need that in, you know, a huge amount of it. Because if we have a look at car analysis here, currently we are very low ranked, but this is the base spec of our car. Basically, we can improve this spec very easily by making specialized parts. So I'm a little bit, as I said, unsure where to place this first safety period. Probably front wing, rear wing, underfloor suspension, maybe even side pods. Chassis, I think, is going to be a tad bit of a waste for 2 reasons. We want to get it made quickly, which means we're going to kind of rush it with engineers. And that is going to have a kind of a negative effect, but not really, because the expertise gain from CFD and wind tunnel is instant. But I'll have a little bit of think here, and then I'll make a decision on what we are doing. I think I've reached a decision on what we're going to be doing with our CFD time. Now, every single piece here has about 60% to 65, close to 70% in terms of their expertise levels, with the exception of the chassis. Now, the chassis doesn't have many stats, so it's kind of weaker to, you know, use it on, but it is very effective at giving us both high speed and medium speed cornering. And I had a bit of a look here. What we're going to be lacking the most is actually that medium speed cornering ability for our car. Most of the other cornerings are going to be probably the best on the field, but we might have a bit of an issue with our medium speed cornering, which is why we are going to be investing our safety and wind tunnel time into the airflow middle perk here of the chassis. It'll also help us catch up a little bit, get the average up to, you know, the average, so to speak. And I am a little bit concerned about how we're going to be developing the car in future. If we're going to be going all in for this season, or if we want to have them be somewhat competitive next season. Basically, just what do we want to do? Let me know what you think. Should we do research this season, play like we normally do, try and make ourselves a harder opponent, or should we play strategically, do basically what the AI does, which is 2 research projects per part, and just focus all in on winning? Now, this is what we can do with the chassis. It's pretty simple and straightforward. We sacrifice drag reduction, we sacrifice engine cooling, and of course the durability lifespan here will be put to minimum. It still has a lifespan of 4 to 8 races, which is more than enough. And the stat gains are pretty massive here. Basically, potentially doubling our gains if you look at it from a lifespan perspective. So durability is quite important to just cut down on. Now, as I said, we are going to be using engineers for this, the maximum amount. We're also going to go ahead and rush the project. And the reason for this is incredibly simple. We want to get as many parts ready for Bahrain as we can. And safety and wind tunnel time right now, the way that it works is that it doesn't matter how short your project is, you'll still get the same amount of expertise. So this will maybe allow us to make 2 chances before the first race, but you could see us making that second chassis closer to, say, Baku. But yeah, this is what we're going to do with the first one. It's going to be focused on cornering. The second piece we want to make is, of course, the underfloor. It's one of those things that are going to take a while to make. Probably, what is it, 7-8 days to make, so we needed 16 days in advance if we can. That's going to be difficult, so we'll do as best as we can here. And for the underfloor, I was a little bit unsure how I wanted to make this, but I'm thinking that we do something like this. It's not completely maximized. We can probably do this as well. As you can see, it's basically an underfloor that is going to sacrifice some of that high-speed cornering ability that we'll be getting from elsewhere. But we'll get better low speed, better medium speed, and importantly enough, we'll get a little bit of that top speed back. We can, of course, go ahead and do it like this. Sacrifice a little bit more drag reduction, but I do want to experiment with it, so we'll take this opportunity to do so. And as I said, I think that's fine. We should be getting more than enough high-speed cornering ability from our other parts, and if need be, we'll just redesign this sometime later. Now, if we get it done by the 36th, or in 36 days, we should have enough time to manufacture 2 of them for our first race, so we're going to go ahead and do just that. The other pieces that we're going to want to make are probably going to be side pods and the suspension, if we can. We're going to get started on the front wing and the rear wing once the chassis is done, although we do kind of want to make another chassis, because as I said, we do have CFD time invested. So, for the suspension here, it's pretty straightforward. We want a low speed focus one with lots of brake cooling. And the other slide is here basically to the left. The reason for that is, well, low speed cornering is kind of hard to come by. But as you can see, we can get a large amount of it from our suspension, along with a large amount of brake cooling. So both of those are really, really nice. The large amount of brake cooling that we're getting here will also allow us to sacrifice some of the brake cooling on the other parts. Unfortunately here, because of how things are, we're going to move one engineer over from this project. That's going to slow it down by a day. And we're going to put him into making, I believe. I think we can rush the side pods if we want to, so we might just go ahead and make that rear wing, because DRS is going to be quite effective and quite important. So we're going to do it like this, pretty straightforward again. Just put everything to minimum. We already have a decent amount of dead air tolerance. When you're at 60% or so, you're still fine. It's going to give us a huge amount of top speed, acceleration, and DRS effectiveness, which all are going to be important for us. This is where most of the speed that we lose from our specializations is going to be regained from. And we'll just put one engineer on that. It's very easy to manufacture these, just 3 days each. So it's honestly nothing to rush with. And once we made this chassis, we're going to go ahead and see what an upgraded chassis would look like in comparison. And decide if we want to do that or a side pod. I think we're just going to go with a side pod. Get the specialized parts made first, and then we can make the others. Now, in terms of practicing here, for this first month, as you can see, the crew is exhausted. We want to go custom, and we'll be setting up a plan here where we can kind of deal with the current issues. As you can see, well rested now, we're about 20% into, error territory, which is not great. But we're also in 2.4 second pit stop. We want to get this down to 2.2, 2.1 before the first race of the season. So I'll be setting up a training schedule now that will get that sorted. Here we are. Now, I opted for doing just a gym the entire month because gym is generally the more exhausting of the trainings. And so we can actually do a full month here with no concern. We can just do that. Put everything into gym, get those times down on the estimated piss-up times here. We cut them about 3/10. And once we get under 2 seconds, we can go ahead and just focus on getting that error chance down. Basically allowing us to, kind of supercharge our pick group before the start of the season. And I think that is the correct play here. Now, other things that we might want to do is have a look at the development. So, someone told me that this resets after each season. Doesn't seem like it, but I can imagine that it might be resetting after a new contract. Because technically, if you want to look at it from the game coach perspective, you might look at it as the driver having re-signed or, been hired, and thus the development focus resets. Now, for man here, I think what we're going to put him on is probably just thinking long runs, honestly. Yeah, get that smoothness up, cornering and reaction is nice too. Stats are fairly high to begin with, so honestly, no big deal. And if he performs well, we should be seeing his stats going up. So that is the plan. In terms of facilities here, we do have some conditions here. Design center, suspension sim. Both of these are currently losing a little bit of stats, but honestly, that's okay. That facilities, the race sim here, we're just going to leave it as it is because we have two older drivers. The development isn't that important to us. However, the helipad, we do want to refurbish this. I'm probably going to forget if we don't do it now, so I'll just get that out of the way. Same here with the weather center, but the rest we can just leave as they are. And I'm very curious to see how the AI will spend the extra money that they'll have at the start of the next season. But yeah, I think I have gone through everything that we need to know. So let's continue. Facility refurbishment complete for the helipad. Good. And the internal car report here. This is actually what you want to have a look at. Our 23 performance versus our 24 performance. We lost a little bit of high speed, but as you can see, we've gained in everything else. And this is basically the car that we kind of set up last year compared to the current car. So it is definitely a huge improvement. We've gained over 3 kph in top speed. So you can imagine just how much of an improvement this car actually is. So even if your game tells you that your car this year is going to be trash, it's not actually factually correct because you still have sliders to play with. You can still move your sliders and make a car that will be really, really good, even if the game tells you that, oh, your car is going to be the slowest. Do not get dejected. New season in Formula 1. Let's see if we have any interesting first season switches. None for Red Bull and Ferrari. Show did end up taking that Aston Martin seat. Russell and Hamilton still at Merck. Bottas and Alonso for us. Ocon, Gasly for Alpine. Magnussen, Hulkenberg and Haas. Rick and De Vries. That's a weird combo. Piastri, Norris, Albon and Tsunoda. So yeah, that's an interesting move though, to be fair. Albon versus Tsunoda in a Williams. Formula 2 updates. See if there's any good talents here potentially that we can see. Fortunately, it doesn't look that way. And we have the weather center now upgraded. Sorry, refurbished as well. Apologies, I have hiccups right now, so I might sound a tad weird at times. Chassis design complete. And if I remember correctly, as you can see, this gives us 47 and 101. These two are the stats that we care about. So if we go back into the design here now, and we want to start another one for the chassis, and we just do the exact same thing that we did with the sliders, what exactly are we going to see? So a small upgrade here, 107, but we no longer lose top speed. As you can see, we no longer lose that. We actually gain some engine cooling compared to our current one. So this would actually be a pretty decent upgrade here. This should be about, if we look at it from this perspective, this is our current chassis, 0.02 gain across the board. We're not gaining as much in the high speed and medium speed as we would expect. That's mainly due to the fact of how we place our sliders. Now, if we have a look at the older one, or the one that we just made, like so, you can see that this one is a minus 0.27 kph. So us putting in the extra time that with CFD and wind tunnel actually gave us a 0.29 kph gain on the same design, an extra point in acceleration, some extra, not really any extra low speed, but we're not focusing on that for the chassis anyways. A little bit of boost in these two, and basically almost a 4% boost in engine cooling. So it did work. It took 14 days to have these kind of boosts, and that is pretty insane. So top speed wise, we probably should go ahead and make that part, but it's the chassis that we currently have, researched or designed is still pretty good. It's not bad. So what we're going to do instead is just get going with the side pod, because I'd like to get these ones made as well. And mainly because the gain that we'll have from the side pod is going to be bigger than the gain that we would have for making a redesigned chassis. As you can see, we're going to be losing some top speed, but we're going to get a ton of engine cooling, and that's going to make our life a little bit easier. And if we need to later on in the season, we can just tune down that engine cooling again and not really have any particular issues. But I like to have my engine cooling a little bit higher, and as I said, if we feel the need, we can do something like this. Just a slight gain, and this works too, honestly. It gives us more stats. The engine cooling here, around 60%, is more than enough to last us a season without crashes. So we might just go ahead and make it like this. Engine cooling higher than this is nice, but honestly, not really necessary. And since we have a new chassis that we can make that is going to be more balanced, actually give us a little bit more engine cooling, we can go ahead and make something like this, which is less of a top speed loss, more cornering, and it wouldn't actually be a negative thing to do. We're going to put 5 engineers on this, which means that we're going to get it done with plenty of time to go. And that is honestly okay. But in a few weeks time here, we're going to have so many things to manufacture. So we're going to go ahead and get 2 chassis made. 3 would probably be a good bet, but we're going to gamble on 2 being enough, hopefully. And that should also keep the manufacturing slots open for us for once we make all 4 of those designs in, as I said, about 3 weeks time. So it is what it is. We still have a good chassis, don't get me wrong, but we can make an even better one fairly soon. Underfloor, reduced deadline. Apparently it has been, pushed forward by about a week. We'll take that. It's a random event that benefits us greatly, and it'll be done now in just 2 days. There we are. With this, we could potentially go ahead and get some pieces made before, the start of the season. Again, this will sacrifice some dirty air and high speed tolerance, but that is fine. Gonna go ahead and make 2 of those. And we're also gonna go ahead and make a new design. So the only thing we haven't made yet is the front wing. We have no chance of getting this done before Bahrain, but we can probably get this done before, the start of Baku, the 3rd race. So we're just going to be very, very, boring here. Focus on low speed, focus on medium speed, sacrifice some brake cooling because we're going to get more than enough of it from the suspension. Airflow sensitivity, we can sacrifice a bit of that too because it mainly has with cornering to do. And this is basically what we want to do for our front wing. It's going to give us low speed, medium speed cornering, tiny bit of acceleration. We sacrifice some brake cooling, some dirty air, and high speed, cheese. But it should still be okay. We should get plenty from, as you saw, the side pods and our chassis. So it's not actually a bad thing. Now, if we do it like this, in 38 days, we can have it ready for Melbourne. If we can even speed it up even more by doing rushed, we could have it done in time for almost Sakir here. So let's rush it, honestly. It's a bit of a cheese one, but last year we had some to go on. And let's face it, right now we don't need all these engineers on this project. We can probably delay it like so. Shouldn't be an issue. And we can move them now over to the... that is the wrong project. We can now move them over to the front wing. And that should help us get that in time to get one front wing ready for Sakir. Meaning that we will have a completely new car by the first race. And that will give us a good, kind of pointer at where our car actually stands. So a bit of an improvement here for Bottas. No changes for Alonso. A couple of changes here for Pacher. We'll take that. And we'll have to set up probably this month in a bit more of a relaxed manner, where the goal is going to be to, get them ready for that first race. And as I said, the main thing that we'll be focusing on is going to be pit stop drills rather than anything else. Start getting that error chance down a little bit. And the main thing that we need to be concerned about is just that first race weekend. So I wouldn't be too worried, honestly. It should be fine. And again, the goal is just to get that air chance down a little bit. Now, the best way to get the air chance down is actually to focus on the wheel gun, as that will give you the best gains of, best reduction, if you will, of mistake chance. So if we switch this to pit stop drill focus to balanced or to rise and lower car, if you look at that percentage of error in the bottom right here under fatigue, on wheel gun it's 19, and everything else here it's above 20%. It's not a big difference though. So if you really want to focus on the wheel gun chance, you can, but I'd honestly just stick to balanced. It's perfectly fine to do so, and to be fair, the wheel gun errors are usually pretty quick to solve. The other errors usually take longer, so I'd probably just do it like this. And in terms of fatigue for the next weekend, we're going to put in 2 pit stop drills here, and then we'll figure out the next week after that. So that's going to be the way that we do things. We're going to gain a little bit of estimated pit stop time because skills are great, but honestly, it's okay. That's going to be our pit crew training schedule. Chassis has been manufactured. That opens some slots for us, meaning that everything that we're now making should be, manufacturable. Suspension has been completed, and we're going to go ahead and make 2 of those. As you can see, we can't actually make 2 of them in time for secure unless we rush them. So I think what we can do is just make 1 and then rush the other. I do want to have both cars kind of prepped. Although, again, it's expensive. It's going to cost a little bit extra money, but it is a sacrifice that I'm willing to make. Now, what we're going to do now is, of course, redesign that chassis that we have already made. And the goal here is just going to be making a bit of an improvement. As you can see, it's still a plus in everything, rather than a loss like we had earlier. But this is still a good chassis, and we're still gaining a little bit of engine cooling back, so we'll just run it like this. 30 days, not really a problem. We can put more engineers on it if we feel it in need. Okay, so rear wing and another design should finish very soon. The rear wing, there we are, and the side pods as well. So the side pods we're probably going to have to rush if we want to get ready for Bahrain. And what I mean by this is we're going to have to rush both sets. It's going to cost another $450,000. But as I said, I do want to have a car ready for both cars ready. Well, we're only going to have the front wing on one, but I want to have both cars as ready as possible for Bahrain here, because I want to see how good they are. I wouldn't really recommend the approach that I'm doing right now because it is expensive. It is going to cost you probably more than some of you might be comfortable with, but it is basically how we are going to have to do this if we want to get this made. And even then, I think we might actually end up in a situation where we will run out of manufacturing slots. And that is probably going to be the bigger issue with the said approach. Now, for the side pods there, I did make one that is... Could make one that is like this, but as you can see, even this compared to our current one isn't that great. So, yeah. Low speed is not the focus of your side pods. Doesn't really work that way. We could make something like this, which is more, speed focused. Turn down the minimum lifespan a bit. But even then, that's not really a, something that we need. But what I think we'll do instead is just make 2 side pods that aren't going to be used, more or less. And kind of just have them as an expertise booster. And that's what this is going to be. So put 1 engineer on that, get the design started. And for the chassis, we can put more engineers on it, no problem. I think we're going to do the same here for the suspension, honestly. Although the rear wing 2 would be a good idea to, kind of push. We'll do 1 for the suspension, though. And again, this is going to be a very, very minor boost because of how this works. But that's still fine. We are still gaining expertise. Okay, suspension manufacture is complete. And here we are going to have to rush 1 more. It's going to be done in 5 days. So, as I said, I don't think we're going to have the slots to make that front wing, which is going to be a bit of an issue. 2 days for the rear wings to finish. We're actually going to have slots for that, though, as a result. So, it's not all bad. We're going to get 1 front wing made, most likely. Welcome to the 24th season. After a long winter break, we're eager to put the tires to the track again. I agree. Rear wing manufacture is completed. Post-Bahrain testing results. Again, this is our car without any boost. The only reason why we have decent acceleration is because of the Red Bull engine. It has the best acceleration, but as you can see, we are basically 7th or 8th best on the grid with the expected car performance, And again, that is kind of where we are. But as soon as we get some of our development in order, that's going to spike upwards. Now, I'm going to rush to front wings more. And that is because hopefully during the second day, I'll remember to put one onto our other car. But this does put us in a bit of a awkward situation should any crashes arise because we don't have spare parts. So it is a bit risky for the first race of the season in particular, but probably going to be worth it. So we'll see what we can do. For now, though, we'll just start some projects here where we're going to be, start making some spares. Suspension, front wing, sometimes chassis, other things that we probably want to focus on for that. Because, well, they are the things that usually gets damaged the most. Manufacture complete, side pods, good. And we're probably going to go ahead here and make another side pod. They do have a tendency to kind of blow up. And apparently we also had a delay there for the chassis. So we can change the deadline. It's going to be a little bit, longer, 17th of March. Which is fine. Meaning that we won't really have it before Bahrain. But honestly, it's not really a concern. I also forgotten to, restart a slot here. Which I think is just going to be the rear wing. I do value the rear wing probably more than I should. Because of its, drag direction DRS delta. So we'll just make one normal there. And that should be all good. Now, we have... we're going to go ahead and hit and probably just pay overtime. Means that we'll have it for, means that we'll have it for Australia. However, we should now have, with the race day being upon us, a new car for both of them. So the chassis here, as you can see already, is going to improve the attributes greatly. It's going to put us up 12 places, 6 places on the grid. So this is going to be a massive upgrade. Front wing, we only have it for one car. And I'm going to give it to Bottas. Or should I give it to Alonso? That's the question. Let's face it, we want to make Alonso champion. We're going to give him a shot. Although, I feel kind of bad for Bottas doing that. Rear wing here, it's mainly just, as you can see, DRS effectiveness, 16 places up. And I did actually not have a big, a huge look on that front wing. But as you can see, if I were to demote him into the regular one, it would lose us 11 places in just low speed cornering ability. Side pods, these are going to be still fairly small upgrade, but if you remember that we've already put some upgrades on the car, that actually makes them kind of massive. So we do lose a little bit out in high speed here by doing this, but I think we're going to be peak under low speed. So it's going to cancel that out. And again, we lose out a little bit on the high speed. We're going to go even higher on the low speed. So let us have a look right now what our car looks like when we have every one of the first generation parts on it. So we want to have a look at car 2, which is one that has every upgrade that we have available to us. We don't have the best dirty air tolerance, which means that we're kind of bad at following other cars. We don't have the best engine cooling, which means that we're going to suffer a little bit, but we can boost this later if we feel the need. Brake cooling is definitely acceptable. Top speed is way better than last season. Still needs a little bit of work though. And if we have a look here on what we can see in terms of our car performance, we are lacking a little bit in high speed. That underfloor sacrifice of the high speed here might have been a bad idea from my part, and we're still last in top speed. So we do have a little bit of work ahead of us here. The DRS effectiveness, the everything. But we should have a fairly competitive car. And with both Bottas and also Alonso, I don't doubt that we're going to have some good races here. So this is a qualifying position 3, qualify 10th or higher for 5 races in a row with both drivers. We're going to go for that. And we're going to go for fastest lap. We're going to go for both drivers in Q3, both drivers in Q2. And because of the expectations here, we're going to get some decent payouts for this, because I believe the board still only expect us to finish 6th or above. So yeah, we're not too worried about that. And as I said, we do have a better driver lineup this year. Our car, although still lacking a little bit in, the high-speed department, because, well, I could probably have planned it a little bit better. But as you can see here, Bottas' car, which doesn't have the front wing that sacrifices a little bit of high-speed cornering, is 3rd in high speed. He's just behind his teammate's car in medium. And he has the better DRS effectiveness than, apparently, Alonso. So, well, that's because Alonso's car number 2. So really, we do have a fairly, competitive package. We're not too far behind the best high-speed team. The main thing, though, is still we are very, very vulnerable when it comes to the top speed. But that shouldn't actually be a bit of a concern. Let's jump into Bahrain. We'll be showing the first few races here a little bit more in depth to see what our car is actually capable of, where we can expect to finish. And then for the next part, we'll be kind of skipping over a little bit more of that. For now, though, we'll jump into Bahrain and see how we perform. I thought we'd have a quick look at qualifying here to give you a little bit of an idea of how it works. So, with the recent patch, one flying lap is the best again. It is just what it is. If you do two now, they will run out of energy and have not any improvement in Q3 for sure. Now, the way that I usually do it is fairly simple. We send out both cars with just a little gap between them. And this first run is done on all tires for two reasons. It's a confidence building run, but it's also to save tires, and that is the main reason. Once we've done this run, we want to wait for the towards the end of the session in order to get ourselves a second run going. And for this, we just do it very simply, get on the new fresh tires, and next up we're going to wait for a good window to send them out. To figure out this good window, we just have a look at the prediction here on when the cars are going to be leaving. Estimated here is that every car will have left with, well, around 2 minutes left in the session. So what we can do here is just wait and see. Sainz has left, he's the first car out, Perez, Russell, Leclerc's leaving. So honestly, this is probably a good window to get our cars out as well, because 4 cars have left. There's just 4 cars in the pits now. That can potentially be a problem. If we wait too long, we're going to have to overtake Sainz on, the flying lap. And we might be clear of Verstappen here. I think we're going to catch up to Stroll. But as you can see, a lot of cars now do have to, to put in some work here in order to avoid Stroll. But we ended up not really getting blocked at all. Didn't really have a good time here, however, which can happen. It is what it is, and it shows that the Red Bulls and the Ferraris do have a bit of an advantage on us, at least in qualifying with the high top speed. Although I do believe these times weren't the best we've ever set, so we'll compare them to times in Q2 and Q3, because even though we did kind of get a good window, I don't know if these times were good, and you can kind of see it here: 29.6, 29.7 versus a 29.1, 29.3. So yeah, something went wrong during that run, although they both kind of had clean air. Maybe we should have waited a little bit longer to send them out, but it is what happens. Sometimes things just don't go your way, and this can be the result. So we're going to have not the best start next for this race, but if we had hit our best times, we could potentially have been front row. So still good, not the worst ever, but as I said, might have just sent those cars out a little bit too quickly. Ended up in a little bit too much of dirty air, and it cost us a decent chunk of lap time. Now for the race itself, we're going to be doing, split strategies, and the reason for this is because Bottas has 2 sets of hards. Although, to be honest, hards aren't really anything you want to be on here if you can avoid it. The difference is 1.2 seconds from softs to hard as a baseline, and it'll take 20 laps for those hards to become equivalent to the soft tires. So yeah, don't really want to have extra hards here, honestly. Pit lane's fairly short too with 23 seconds. So what we probably can set up a strategy here for Bottas that is fairly quick. He's still not going to have a good time, let's be honest. We could do, a AI strategy and do 2 hards here to the end. But pretty sure this is going to be slower than anything else we can come up with. So as you can see, it's just a couple of seconds quicker than base strategies here. And these base strategies have a lot to go on. So yeah, not really something you want to do if you can avoid it. So what I'm thinking is that we just start on the mediums. We go into 2 sets of softs. And we do something like this. This is more going to be a, middle relaxing stint. But this is probably the best we can do. Better than having 2 hards here, it would probably be better to have 2 mediums. But I don't really take control over practice, so it ended up being a bit of an open book. We're going to put, I think, Alonso on basically the same strategy. Should be fine. I don't think there's anything that's going to be necessarily quicker. And again, we do want to try and stretch this first stint a little bit in order to not get caught up in the pits, get stuck. And that's going to be the goal there. Now, in terms of driver options here, we're of course going to go full push, full attack, full everything. just to make life a little bit simpler for ourselves. And both cars are in park ferme. I did, of course, forget to put that extra front wing on Bottas's car, so I did kind of nerf in here. So yeah, as I said, I'm probably going to forget. I did. Something came up and I had to step away for about half an hour. So yeah, I forgot. I'm sorry, Bottas. I'll do better next time. But you did beat Alonso even so. With that said, though, let's jump into this race, and we might need to, as I said, make a little bit more of a high-speed focused underfloor, potentially, to kind of make up for it. We're already pretty slow in top speed. If we lose a little bit more, it won't matter too much. For now, though, let's jump into Bahrain and see how we perform in this first race of the second season.
The floodlights are... And this is it, the Bahrain Grand Prix.
2 softs, 2 mediums for both Ferrari and Red Bull. They are, after all, our closest competitors here. First things first, we're going to go low on the risk. Don't want to destroy parts if we can avoid it during this race. Bottas is aggressively gaining places, but fell back down to 5th. Same here for Alonso, kind of. He too fell down into his original position. But I'd argue that's a good start. We kept both our cars in the starting grid positions, and we'll try and do our best now to have something happen with the Red Bulls and the Ferraris. The race running wide on turn 7 should not come as a surprise, unfortunately. But yeah, good start. Let's see if we can keep it going. And as you can see, Perez and Leclerc, both on the soft tires, are just flying ahead of Verstappen, Sainz, and us. And once we go into our soft tires ourselves towards the end, I think we're going to be able to regain that. But if they keep this up with a couple of seconds gained per lap, basically, they will be able to get the gap they need to safely pit ahead of us. So that does put us in a position where we have our work cut out for us. We need to try and get up to the front, start catching. And that is, of course, going to be the goal here. But we are the 3rd and 4th car in the DRS train. That's going to make our lives a lot tougher. Heat-wise, these tires can go up to 135 degrees, so we're not really cooking them, even though Bottas is running fairly hot. And we'll be running the fuel here down to a deficit of about 1.5 kilos. Looked like Bottas was about to launch an attack there, but just couldn't finish it, because I would assume they're running double blocker formation in front, which honestly wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, for now, we'll just stay where we are. We'll try and get a move done if we can. And we'll be turning down the fuel usage in probably a lap or so.
Down the straight, they decide to give it a go.
So Bottas has made an overtake, followed with Alonso, I think.
Moves up the field.
But as you can see now, we are getting closer to getting attacks launched. And Bottas has actually made it up to 3rd. Alonso is still in 5th, but Sainz has been falling down the grid a little bit. And now we're going to be basically DRS training with Verstappen and trying to close down on the soft runners ahead. Lap 11, Bottas and Alonso have now kind of gotten free from Verstappen. It happened actually really, really quick here. They basically are DRS training off each other, and that has allowed them to create a bit of a gap to the cars behind. We're still losing lap time for the time being, though, and to the cars in front, although on the last lap there we were kind of gaining. But as you can see, it's not by much, and it will take some time to actually catch them. But let's face it, the soft is incredibly powerful compared to the medium here. Compared to anything, really, it is the best tire. So as long as we keep on catching, we should be good. But also keep in mind that Perez and Leclerc are 2 seconds between each other, so we're basically 7.5 seconds behind the lead. So still a lot of work to do here. We've had a crash on track. Same time Leclerc opts to pit. He actually had a bit of a pit stop issue, the first of the season, but he was also the first pitter. Lost him a little bit of time, which should make it easier for us to catch him. But yeah, this is a yellow flag. We've had an incident between Show and Russell. So it didn't take him long to cause an incident in this new team. He is the one with the penalty. That one is quite bad though, because I'm pretty sure he hit the wall. Looks like his rear wing did survive though, so he is fine. But yeah, that could have been kind of bad. But we're running second, we're running third. 5 seconds behind Perez. Leclerc did pit, but as you can see, he actually came out in a great window here for him. So he'll be getting back up to the front, no problem at all. He is on the medium though. It's going to take him a little bit of time to get that done. Degradation-wise, we're looking good still. So we'll keep this going, and we'll see where we stand once we get closer to our pit window. We're edging closer and closer to a pit window. It's actually best to, I think, pit one of the cars this lap, which is going to be Bottas. He has less tire wear. So we'll get him in this lap, and we'll get Alonso in next lap. They are running side by side. We have 18 seconds to Leclerc, which means that he will most likely jump us, but we should be able to jump him back. Perez too, just right behind on the soft tires, so gonna be close for sure, but it's not something that we cannot deal with. And there are some gaps here, so there's not really a DRS train going at the current time, as both Hamilton and Norris should be easily, I dare say, beaten. Bottas does now come into the pits. Let's see if he beats the car out. There's one off the track there. And we did have a slow pit stop of 6 seconds. Leclerc had a bit of a spin. That's going to be bad for him. But yeah, we too did have a bit of a pit stop issue here on the first weekend, which is bad, honestly. But there's nothing we really can do with it. So Bottas is now in 4th. He should be able to get Norris on his own. I don't need to worry about that. We do need to tune him down to aggressive though. And we'll have a look at Alonso's pit stop now. And hopefully he will not be, suffering the same kind of issues. But with the exception of Perez, he should have a bunch of free air. As Leclerc is now down into 7th after that spin. And for Bottas, might want to just go a little bit more aggressive in order to heat up the tires quicker. But he has reached this sooner rather than later. And honestly, I think it's better for him to take care of them since he doesn't have the highest smoothness. Clean stop from Alonso, which is what we like to see. He is going to come out behind Perez though. But at least ahead of Bottas and Norris. So gap still there, about 5 seconds. But honestly, as I said, I don't think we have any huge concerns there. Perez still has to use a medium at one point. Now for Bottas, I would really like it if we could have him just deploy here. Get close to Verstappen and then pull away at the first given chance there. Because Verstappen is kind of flying at the moment. Pulling away would be great, but if we can't, just staying with him would work too. As he could actually tow us up towards his teammate. But Verstappen has already used his soft tires, so potentially we could have a proper fight with Red Bull this year. I believe Verstappen started on the medium, if I'm not misremembering. So he is going to be on softs till the end of the race. He is pretty quick. He's actually caught Alonso right now. So we'll have to see. Might just slow down a little bit here once we catch Perez run with them. And basically stretch and go full attack on the softs once given the opportunity. We'll see. For now, we'll kind of just stay where we are. And we will be trying to have Bottas create a gap. If we do, it would be by recharging the ERS a little bit and then attacking. And it does seem like that is potentially viable now. Just needs to, as I said, recharge and then get the attack going. We've had a incident here with Bottas that actually crashed. I assume he has touched Verstappen.
And oh dear, that's Max Verstappen.
Let's see exactly what happened here. Light touch, but he gets it back under control. That's quite lucky, honestly, that he didn't get sent to the Shadow Realm. And also that his tires didn't become, Swiss cheese. But yeah, we have been trying to get away from Verstappen. We've done 3 attempts so far. Charge ERS, push everything that we had. We haven't really been able to, so what I'm thinking is that if we're still close right now, we're going to go ahead and deploy. And we actually might have gotten him a tad too early here, but we'll see. Push fuel, and we'll try and get away from him. Because again, we don't want to pull him along. Probably should have waited until we were by the DRS detection zone here to really make a move. But it is what it is. We'll still try and push over the course of this lap and get that gap going. And we are pushing fuel here too, which honestly isn't really working at this point. As you can see, Verstappen just still is able to stick with us. So what we are going to have to do is probably just do it on fresher tires. We're going to harvest. We're going to make sure that we have a full battery once we go into our final stint. kind of doing the same here with Alonso, really. But with pit window entered, we can go full attack on Alonso. I think we're going to hold a little bit off here on Bottas, although Perez has now pitted. So Alonso needs to do the best that he can to get a little bit of a gap going. Unfortunately, Sainz didn't actually get Perez here. So, again, we're just going to try and do the best that we can. We do want to try and get a bit of a tire advantage if we can pull that off. Sainz here could play MVP for us because he's on all softs. Perez is on fresh mediums. So he'll not be the quickest he can be. And hopefully that will be enough to give us the win here. But yeah, Bottas and Verstappen, not really having a good one in this one. Just can't get away from Verstappen here, but they're equal on tyres now. I assume Verstappen is going to be pitting soon, but as you can see, degradation-wise, we are a little bit, you can just see a tad bit of red there, and you can also see by the line, we're a little bit below where we want to be in terms of the degradation. And that does put us in a bit of a pickle here. But I think we can go attack now until Bottas' tyres are done. And potentially here, that might be enough to pull a little bit of a, say, 1 second gap from Verstappen. But I assume he is going to be pitting very, very soon here. So the question is, do we pit on this lap? It should still be doable to do full attack till the end with Bottas. And I think we do that. We try and get out ahead of Verstappen, get a little bit of a gap made, and hope that is enough. And he actually pits on the same lap as us, so we need a beautiful pit stop here. We pulled it off, that's the interesting one, 2.1 seconds, but we're still out behind him, and we even have cars, you know, squished in between, so definitely something weird there. I'm looking forward to seeing how quick Verstappen's pit stop was, because if it was slower than ours, then that just straight up tells us that having a pit box further down the line, if you pit with against, you know, your opponent, is straight up a debuff. For now, though, I think we're going to get Alonso in, and that should be fine. But again, it's just like the safe space in the pit lane is a little bit too wide. Like the gaps are a little bit too big, I feel. And as a result, it is very easy to jump other cars. That's the main problem there. Alonso does now pit. And he will not come out ahead of Perez, unfortunately, but he should be able to, you know, catch him and reinstate a gap, I would think. For Bottas now, the game is going to be to just get by Verstappen as soon as possible, hopefully on this next straight, and then try and create that gap that we have been hoping for. And hopefully Alonso can kind of help him with that by pulling. Verstappen is on soft tyres though, that does make him somewhat dangerous. So we'll have to see here. We'll try and have, as I said, Bottas push. If he can't create the gap, he'll just have to fight Verstappen towards the end of the race, have him slow down a little bit. But nothing much we really can do with that other than take it a little bit slow, take it a little bit strategically. Because right now Verstappen is keeping up and is potentially even quicker than us because of the fact that we can't pull away from him under DRS. So Bottas' fight is going to be with Perez. Sorry, with Verstappen. There's just no other way around it. He does have DRS though from Alonso, or had. But that does put us in, as I said, a bit of a compromised position. We do need to get Alonso past Perez as soon as possible. And it's just a shame that pit stop strategy didn't work, honestly. But yeah. Could be a very interesting season coming up then with us versus Red Bull. Okay, Alonso's going to be given the ERS here. Deploy, get as close as you can into straight, then fly by. And we want, once again, him to just create a big gap. For Bottas, we're going to conserve a little bit, see if we can do something with it. And as I said here, getting by Perez is going to be a bit of a rough one. Same one kind of as we had with Verstappen. And luckily here, we actually have Norris kind of acting as a bit of a blocker, just minimally there. Perez should still have gotten DRS, I would think, and you can actually see it on the fact that he's closing in. But Alonso has far more energy in the tank here and should be able to create himself a bit of a gap that's going to make his life a lot easier. Meanwhile, Bottas has fallen back because we have been, you know, refueling, done everything that we can, really. And we're going to go back here on the attack, see if we can get close to Verstappen, get by him, and maybe catch Perez. 10 laps to go here. It's going to be an interesting one. think the key here is going to be to just deploy. And unfortunately, I think it got him before the DRS detection point, which is actually right here. So we got Verstappen, but I don't think it's going to do us any good, is what I'm saying. What could do us some good, though, is actually catching Perez. And what I mean by this is catching Perez and overtaking him, because we can't stay ahead of Verstappen, we just can't get away from him. If we catch Perez and overtake him, it's going to put one more car between us and Verstappen, and that car is going to be slower by virtue of using mediums. So that could be the only, you know, out card that we have available to us, and we'll have to see if we can make something out of that. We should have DRS on the main straight. Verstappen didn't really... Oh, it lost a little bit of time to Piastri, so that works out in our favor. I want Bottas now to just, you know, send everything that he has, get by Perez as quickly as possible, and if you can, establish a gap. And that should be game over for this race. Verstappen was a stubborn opponent, but if we can pull away as said from Perez, that should be it. Last nail in the coffin. And I think we did indeed hit it. So, Alonso, pretty chill out front. Bottas, pretty chill in second. Perez is close, but as I said, we have lap times here that are more than adequate, where we can kind of, as I said, just sit back and relax. We were pulling Verstappen along, that's the thing. Probably gaining him close to maybe even a second a lap, because of the fact that we were, you know, pulling him along. He was just about keeping inside of those DRS zones, and particularly on this long one, he would close 9/10 down to about 3/10, and then we just couldn't create a gap on the other two. So a bit problematic, but we made it work in the end. And for now, we're just going to tune both cars down to standard. Slowed him down a little bit. We have 5 seconds down to Perez just a few laps ago. There's no need for us to take any sort of risk. And that should be it. A decent season opener with a 1-2.
What you have done, guys.
Alonso being happy. Love to see it. Great job, everyone. Great teamwork this weekend.
Okay, Valtteri, that's it.
Valtteri finished P2. Good job. Shame though that we couldn't, as I said, I do kind of want to get Alonso a win, but it's actually the same for Bottas. I'd like to get both of them a championship if I can. So we might snatch Bottas in a later, you know, edition if we can. But we did win 1-2, which is what we were going for. The Red Bull 3-4. Then we have 5-6 for the Ferrari. Hamilton in 7th, Stroll in 8th, and then Alpine and McLaren. So yeah, good one. I am curious though, as I said, if the Red Bull pit stop. That's the thing. We did have the fastest pit stops, but the second one here, that's the one that I'm curious about. So, the Red Bull's quickest pit stop was 2.4. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say that their quickest pit stop was this one. That's still 3/10 that we lost, basically waiting in the pits, which means that we lost even more time. We had a quicker pit stop, we went in before him. The only reason why we came out behind is straight up because of the fact that the gap between sending cars out is too big. It's a pit lane. If you're going to have every car pit, of course, there's going to be cases where you can't really drive out, but I don't think this was one of them. And honestly, I probably should have just had it zoomed out like the earlier pit stops to have a good look at it. But it's a bit of one of those problematic things, but again, it's a balancing thing. Maybe also be an engine limitation that if you send them out too close, they'll end up crashing or something. Who knows? Decent race though. Decent season start. We'll take that. And as I said, I did forget to put that front wing onto Bottas' car. It is what it is. Can't really do anything about it. What I think we are going to do though is make 4 front wings immediately. So we're up to the cap. And as I said, we might do some changes here where we adjust that you know, high speed cornering ability of some of our parts. We'll have a look at that and see later on. The F2 and F3 race winners, Novalak and Solzi, with the podiums for F2, Stanek and Almos, F3, Korea and Barnard. And as I said here, the manufacturing is going to be kind of important, but I'd say we could manufacture just an extra chassis to be on the safe side. It's a bit of a more of an expensive manufacturing, but it's also an important one. And we're also going to go ahead and make 2 more rear wings because it's quick. And that should now put us in a pretty good position in terms of the car parts. We can have a look at everything, see where we're at. Do need one more suspension, so let's get that made. Underflow's up to date. Suspension, sorry, side pods need one more. Rear wing, front wings are being made. Chassis. I think we're making everything that we need to make right now, so we are looking good. Driver stat update, no improvements. Which is not surprising when we have them, you know, take PR interviews. In terms of the... they're actually well rested for once, that's interesting. But yeah, we'll once again just focus on the pit stop drills. Get that error chance down, and that should be a good setup here for this month, I think. Can probably do one more then, if it says they're going to be well rested. I don't know if I trust this one, because it says well rested, even though we're working on pit stop drills the entire week. So if they end up tired, I'm going to be sad. If they don't, I'm going to be very happy. Because this is going to allow us to remove a lot of our pit stop error chance. Which is, of course, going to make life a ton easier. Let's see, okay, so we're getting close. Let's put in 2 more, like so. And then I say put in 4 days maybe for this week. Give them a couple of resting days. Yeah, put in 1 more, like so. That's going to cut down our chances somewhat decently at 1.35. As you can see, 6.7 points across the board. It's going to be helpful. We're going to head and confirm these changes and get that update going. Let us continue. Aerodynamic testing period has ended. A new ATR period starts. As I said, we'll have... you will give me some input. Should we, you know, go for making the strongest car that we can for the AI? Or should we take it a little bit more careful and focus on, you know, developing the car that we currently have? What is going to be the better option there in terms of our progression? With that side point made, I think we have kind of caught up. Again, we do want to make a new chassis, so the chassis isn't actually a big deal. We've actually had it manufactured just now along with the suspension. And if we have another look now at the warehouse, the chassis, again, we are going to make a new one, so it doesn't really matter if what we do with it. The front wing is still being made, that final one. So with the side pod here being made as well, suspension 4, underfloor 4, I think we're actually up to date now on the parts. So that is really, really good. Got everything sorted before the second race, and that is fairly nice. Chassis design will be done tomorrow, so it'll be ready for Australia as well. In terms of our race targets guarantees here, Q3 should be doable. Both cars in top 10. We did have a bit of a weird qualifying last time around where we did worse than expected, but that is what it is. We'll say 1 driver on the podium. And with that, we'll jump into the next race, which is Saudi Arabian GP. Interestingly enough here, we once again qualify 5th and 6th. So that does kind of give us a hint here that our car, because of the lack of probably high-speed cornering ability, more so probably the top speed, is probably the 3rd best car on the grid, particularly in terms of qualifying pace. But we're probably going to be better in terms of race pace just because we use more aggressive strategies. So honestly, this does give us a little bit of an interesting one where we can end up with fights like last time out in Bahrain with Verstappen to keep things kind of interesting. For now though, I'll just quickly set up a strategy for us to use, and we'll see what we actually end up having as a result here in the second race this season. In terms of the strategy, this is what we're going to do. It's going to be a split one. We're both going to start on the medium tire. We're going to keep on full attack. This is a tad risky though for Bottas. This is one of those tracks where the degradation can suddenly spike very harshly. And if it does for either of our drivers, we're going to have to make some amends to both of these strategies. But if we can keep the tires within the operating window and keep things going well, this should still be fairly okay as a potential strategy to use. And that is kind of what we're going for here. So we'll go for this. It should be good enough. It is kind of hard to overtake here. So we'll see if we can get some early, you know, picks, if you will. There is both Ferraris on the softs, both Red Bulls on the mediums, but that shouldn't pose too much of a threat. Then we have the Mercs on a split strategy behind us. It's going to be interesting for sure. For the start here, we are once again going to go with low rally defend. because again, we want to try and avoid incidents as much as we can. Because if we finish the race, we are most likely going to end up with a decent result. Bottas has already jumped Sainz into the first few corners. Alonso, no such luck just yet.
Remember to use the overtake button.
And we should see them slowing down after a couple laps here. But we will be, as I said, paying attention to the degradation here. Tires go only up to 130 degrees. So if they go up to 126, 27, we're probably going to have to tune down to aggressive for a bit. And just juggle backwards and forwards a little in order to make sure that we don't degrade our tires to a level where we can't actually use them properly. So we will keep that in mind and we will handle it as best as we can. Yeah, looks like we have entered basically a stable pattern. Alonso is falling a little bit backwards there, but it's understandable. Bottas is using more energy. And as I said, we'll have to keep an eye here on the temps, mainly where we do end up. And if we end up with too high temps, we might be in trouble. But also, if we don't have any brakes in this DRS train, we're going to have trouble when it comes to pitting anyways. Because of the fact that, well, the DRS train is going to be, you know, impossible to recover from. So we'll have to try and deal with that. Temp-wise, we're at 175 degrees and still going up. So might be for the best here to tune them down. Yeah, we're going to tune them down to aggressive here for a little bit, at the very least.
No overtake.
And that should hopefully make the situation for us a little bit more stable. Now, Perez and Leclerc has kind of run away with it so far. Kind of what we saw last time around, a Red Bull and a Ferrari pulling away. But it should still be fine once we get ourselves to in a little bit more of a pushier situation. That should be fine. But as I said, I am worried that the high temps here on this track in particular, running 126, 127 on most other tracks would be fine. But on this track in particular, that can actually have some pretty intense negative effects. So for now, we'll just sit where we are and we'll see if we can make it up to the front of the pack and maybe create a little bit of a gap towards the car further behind. We're getting very close to the first pit stop. Bottas has fought his way to the front of the pack, but it's basically neck and neck with the Red Bulls and Leclerc. Alonso did get held up a little bit, just a couple of seconds down the field. But generally here, we don't really have any good pit windows to actually move into. We're still going to have to get through this basically 5-man, potentially DRS train, which is going to be painful. But luckily, Sainz, Hamilton, Leclerc, there's a bunch of these cars that are going to have to pit fairly soon. And that is potentially going to, you know, give us a little bit of breathing space. I guess that was basically the game telling me that you should pit one of your cars this lap, and I agree. So we're going to pit Bottas, get him in there onto probably the hard tyre as we planned, and see if we can make that last till the end. Now, there is a gap here that is big enough for us to really allow for a double stack, basically 4 seconds. But because of our error chance being as high as it is, I think it's fine to allow Alonso here to just go for one more lap. Should be okay. Sainz pits where he does, as you can see, if Bottas comes out fairly far behind show. For Alonso now, the goal is of course going to be to hopefully get out ahead of Sainz. It's going to be difficult though. Sainz have had a lap on fresher tyres. Leclerc is kind of in the way. But we do actually sneak out ahead of Sainz, and that was basically the main goal kind of completed. And we can now see Alonso pushing kind of aggressively here to some degree. But yeah, Sainz does get him. So yeah, there's going to be a bit of an annoying one here with Sainz being with us. He is running medium tires. We do need to get that overtake done. Create a bit of a gap if we can. So we do have a little bit of work ahead of us. Bottas in 4th here. Russell ahead of him. Need to get by him quickly as we can. Give him 2 deploy. And after that, it's basically just catching up to the 2 Red Bulls on the medium tires. And honestly here, if we can get away from Russell, that would be great. If we can't, it's going to, you know, not be the best thing ever. But we'll just have to deal with it. And as you can see here, Sainz is still causing us some problems. But we'll try and deal with that as we go. For now, we'll recharge and get ready to try and, as I said, create those gaps as soon as we can. We're getting incredibly closer to Alonso's second pit stop. Bottas is about 5 seconds out front, 4.5 really. Alonso has been stuck behind both the Ferraris, just not been able to make any inroads, which is kind of what you expect at this point. As you can see, because of that, degradation has been fairly high as well. So once we make it till the end of this lap and pit him again, he is going to have, once again, a DRS train to get through, unfortunately, but it's just going to be how it is. We're also going to be tuning down his tires to just aggressive. And that should be hopefully good enough that he can make them last till the end. Because as you saw, it did eat up his tires very, very badly there. Luckily, no pit stop error, which should put him behind Russell. And that should make, you know, getting back up to the front of the field with the Red Bulls at least a little bit less painful. It's just 15 laps to go though. And as you can see, Verstappen, Perez, Russell all are on mediums. Sainz, Leclerc on softs. Sainz, Leclerc on mediums. So we're going to have to see what we can do. Alonso should have no problem overtaking Russell, and he didn't. But we'll see if he can catch the others, and if Bottas can keep on, you know, extending that lead. Probably one stopper is the better strategy here, because Alonso's definitely lost more than those, basically, what was it, 4 or 5 seconds? That is the difference between the strategies. Lost way more than that, just getting stuck behind the Ferraris. It would have been better for him to do the hard stop, and that would probably have benefited him more. But yeah, we'll try and deploy now, just to get away from, you know, Russell. We don't want him to cause us any problems. And we might as well just go a little bit on the attack here now. It's just 12 laps to go. This stint lasted about, what was that, 23 to 36, so 13 laps. Should be able to just run full attack now till the end, I would assume. So that is what we'll try and do. But yeah, it does tell us that the strategy choice here probably was a tad bad. We aren't really gaining on these 4 cars much at all. So we'll have to see if Alonso can, you know, get something done by the end of this this race. Although this lap he is gaining massively, as you can already see, almost down to under 10 seconds. But to get you know, the trio here, Perez, get on the podium, he has a lot more work to do to get there. But 28.8 is still a good time, and I think we are going to harvest here too for a couple of laps and have him snatch that fastest lap from Verstappen if we can. I don't know what Verstappen's fastest lap is, but provided Alonso has energy and also, you know, the ability to push for a lap, I think he will be able to beat that. So harvest for this one, go neutral for a lap, and then push on the next lap, and that should be hopefully fastest lap gained. 6 laps to go here. We are within range. If we do a push lap too, that should help. So potentially here, we can at least fight for 4th, but the Red Bulls here have pulled away from the Ferraris, so that makes that a little bit null and void there in terms of trying to catch a podium. But we are getting very close now to Sainz, and there is no DRS train to protect him, so potentially could happen. Don't think Alonso managed to snatch fastest lap though, unfortunately, but yeah, it's still good. Still a good race from us here, I think. The strategy did not do us any favors, let's be honest, but other than that, a fairly decent one. Should be able to get Sainz here on this lap, I would hope. Although we did get Sainz, did give Sainz kind of DRS here now on the straight. And hopefully with some luck now we can get by Leclerc. And if we do that, I don't think we're going to catch the Red Bulls. But this does, again, just give us that, give us a little bit of a sense, a little bit of a hint that this could actually be a good setup now for the car. We might not actually want any more upgrades, because we are 2nd, 3rd best in quali, well, 3rd best really, and it does make for more interesting races, which is a shame, because as I said, most of the races here I'm planning to kind of leave out because of how this series is set up. But we'll see how this ends up. Alonso now is still chasing, still has Leclerc on his tail. Tires are a bit of a concern here, but with just 1 lap to go, that should be more than okay. So Bottas here, still wanting the championship. I guess the old guard, so to speak, will have a fight between themselves on who's going to be world champion. And we might have a bit of a close fight here with Red Bull. So that is looking good, honestly.
What an excellent...
So there we are. 1st and 4th, which isn't too shabby, but the one-stop strategy definitely worked better than the 2-stop. Verstappen and Perez, 2nd and 3rd. Then we have the Ferraris, then alternating the Mercedes and the Aston Martins. So just 5 teams in the points. Show is back in 2nd race for Aston Martin. Gets himself a point. With this though, Bottas does move into the lead. So again, as I said, might have an interfight of some sort. Might just tell them to, like, not give preference. We'll see. But constructive-wise, although Red Bull did get close to us here, we still scored more points. So we'll have to see if it actually ends up being a fight or it's just gonna feel a little bit like a fight. These are some amazing pit stops though. 2075, 2076, 2077. I think we won the closest pit stop championship. The only way to get closer than that on those three is basically if we did them at the same time. Did get a decent chunk of money here, 4.2 million. Performance guarantees paying off well because we aren't expected to finish, you know, winning and on the podium or around the podium. The new chassis design has been completed. The front wing manufacture has been completed, and what we're going to go ahead and do here is just make Fordless chassis immediately, because as you can see, this is the upgrade on the current chassis, and this would, you know, boost us a little bit on the grid. But the top speed there is going to be nice to have. We are sorely lacking in it. Engine cooling is going to be nice as well. So, as you can see, the CFD time here put into this chassis definitely was worth it, in my opinion. Now, we do need a design project, though. We could do the chassis, or we could do front wing, for instance. I'm a little bit unsure what we want to go for. The underfloor here. Honestly, the underfloor does need some work, so I'm tempted to use a CFD period on it at one point. So what we could do here is actually use the second CFD period on the underfloor, rather than research, and still have, you know, a bit of a interesting car, because I wanna do this to just see how well it's gonna work out for us. So this underfloor is gonna be, you know, probably a cornering one, because we are lacking still a little bit of that high-speed cornering ability. And as you can see, if I do this, we're gonna get plus 100 high-speed cornering, and we're gonna lose a lot of kph, but the second edition of this underfloor should make up for that because of the additional 140 days worth of development that is going to be put into it due to using safety and safety time, wind tunnel time. So let's go ahead and do this. It's going to be a while before we actually see the, you know, the fruits of that labor, but that's fine. Chassis design finished and, you know, made. Mini, Aaron, and Starnek, the F2 results. And I think, honestly, we're going to do Australia here. And then I think I'm going to have to cut this episode short because I'm looking at the amount of footage right now, and it's a little bit more than I thought it was. But yeah. New sidepod design has finished. I think we're just going to go ahead and make another one right away. We'll be skipping basically one iteration, if you will. And as I said, we can potentially sacrifice a little bit more of that engine cooling because we're going to get 4% from the chassis. Although the best engine cooling we can actually get from this piece, what we're getting from the chassis is the minimum amount. So let's go ahead and do this. Basically almost minimum. I'm tempted to just go full on minimum. Basically that kph would be nice. Let's do full minimum side pod design as well and see how that stacks up. Research should open before too long though, middle of April. So we're still going to have a couple of designs on our hands before then. So it's not all bad. Probably do one more suspension design and that's going to be it, I think, before we go into research. And I think, honestly, again, I would like some opinions, what people think would be more interesting to see. But I do think we're going to supercharge the themes that we've been in order to... that was finished, not qualifying. In order to make this a little bit more challenging later on. Like, we'll have fights with the teams that we have left, and they might even end up beating us as a result. But I think that would be more fun and interesting. So let's go ahead, we'll head to Austria, and we'll see how we perform here. Bit of a disparity this time around in quali. Bottas gets himself second row. Alonso down in 7th, however, is not the greatest, qualifying we've ever done. Does happen though. 3rd and 7th is going to be fairly interesting. Albon makes in Q3, Williams on the rise. And we have both Alpines out in Q3. So Nick de Vries versus the Alpines, it's de Vries win. But it's also interesting to note that Tsunoda is down here in last, and we have Albon in, well, Q3. So, bit of a weird one, although some of these times, as you can see, it's better than his time in Q3 here. Paris 2 is out, so very, very weird qualifying. It wasn't even wet, so no real incidents. It's a bit of a weird one. Now, in Albert Park, Australia. Had a bit of a mind freeze there for a second. The strategy that we're going to be using here is probably going to be pretty straightforward. The softs are about 3/10 quicker than mediums, about 14-15 laps advantage. Mediums about, well, 4/10 quicker, a little bit more than that. 22-23 laps advantage. So with the tires that we have available, we're probably going to have to go for a pretty basic strategy. In this case, we could go medium into hard. And we're going to do that, but we're going to add a soft stint towards the end here for Bottas. It's going to be fairly straightforward and okay. And we're probably going to do something similar, honestly, for Alonso. He's starting 7th. He's not starting high enough where, you know, it would be a problem to start him on, you know, something else. But I think we're going to do a little bit of a reverse one here, where we start him on the hard tire. And then we, you know, keep him going on the hard tire a little bit longer than the rest of the pack. And try and make some progress after the pit stops. That's going to be the goal here. In terms of times, 18:52 versus 18:52. So they're both basically on the same strategy. Just rearrange a little bit. And honestly, that's fine. Now, in this scenario, we probably could have put both on the same strategy. It wouldn't have been an issue. But I want to see if we can make something out of it, going a little bit longer with Alonso by about 6 laps. And if you can, of course, jump back up the grid. Let's get into it, see what we can pull off here.
The fans here, brace yourselves for the Australian Grand Prix.
There we have our buddy in the Williams. There's one, there's two. Looks like we had a fairly decent start there, honestly. This is what we like to see. I'm sorry that I'm covering the screen with the information here. The push information, but Bottas already making up into 2nd place. Jumping the Ferrari massively there. And Alonso stands tall where he is, I guess. Nope, this is out a little bit to Norris. But honestly, again, that's fine. We are starting on the slower tire. We're the only one who has done so. The rest have started on mediums or a few of them on softs. So, not really a big surprise. We have a safety car. Looks like Alonso got caught up maybe. He's down into 9th now. Who is the unlucky fellows? Piastri and an AlphaTauri of 21. Okay. Yeah, that's a bit of an oucher. I would assume both of them are out. De Vries versus Piastri. But yeah, that safety car does kind of help us out slightly. It's the first safety car of the season. Lap 1 incident. Although, let's face it, halfway through the lap isn't as chaotic. Alonso did, as I say, lose out a little bit at the start of the race. It is kind of what you expect with these hard tires. So
watch for debris.
We'll see if we can actually make something out of this race. It's probably going to be a bit challenging for him. Bottas, though, is in a great position right now in 2nd. So he's made up some space, and we should be fairly happy with that. And as I said, we're saving some tire, saving some fuel here. Generally, though, probably not the best thing for us to have happened, but we can make things out of it. We can stretch the hards if we really want to. We can go in the mediums a little bit earlier. We will have a little bit of an easier time.
The safety car will come in this lap.
Safety car restart. Let's see how this goes. We'll have a look at, I think, Alonso. That Red Bull is just sliding across everywhere. And that should also show us a little bit of what Bottas is up to. But looks pretty standard. Looks like there's no real changes during the restart. Although Alonso is losing out a little bit to the car in front. Which honestly is understandable because, again, it is soft. He's in a soft squeeze. And he's on hard tires. So he is going to have a little bit of a struggle fest until the AI stops pushing. And once the AI stops pushing, he'll have probably a little bit of a chance to catch up to the DRS train again. Then we can work from there. For now, though, we'll just sit back and relax, and we'll see where we stand once we get closer to those first pit stop of ours. We have gotten ourselves a red flag here. Verstappen and Bottas has both stopped on the track. Both are out. That's gonna be a little bit negative for us. I assume Bottas locks up here. Nope.
And there, the cars make contact. I imagine
it's a very light hit, but I'm wondering what kind of damage we're gonna see on this one. Luckily enough for us, though, while it sucks, luckily enough, Alonso has worked his way pretty far up here. He's in 6th, he's going to be promoted to 4th. But yeah, that is very unlucky that there was a slight bump that got both cars out of order. One slides into the other, and then both are virtually out. Now, this does kind of throw a monkey wrench into the strategy at this point. I think we just have no choice but to go on the medium. Just keep on full attack as the plan is, and then maybe go on an aggressive soft towards the end. Basically a one-stopper. A lot of cars are going to go on the hards here because they have hards available. Honestly, Alonso's the only one of the cars that are on the grid that has used his hard set, so he's not going to have a good time. And as you can see, Verstappen ate the penalty, so unfortunate for Bottas, let's just put it like that.
Here we go once more. The track is ready, and so are the drivers.
I see a lot of soft tires still, some hard runners towards the back. They are potentially going to be running 40 laps on those hards. But yeah, we'll see if we can maybe make something out of this. Alonso has very high confidence, and he is getting attacked here by Stroll. And it does look kind of, you know, potential like Bahrain. But luckily it's not coming, so we should be fine still. But yeah, what do we want to do here? That's the big question. I think we just want to do a regular restart where we push for the first lap or so. Well, the first few laps. Alonso here is smelling blood in the water and is immediately attacking the Merc. Well, one Merc at least. I thought he got both there for a second. Did get Hamilton. Is probably going to launch immediately at Russell. And if we can create a gap here before we pit, that would be honestly the dream scenario. And right now it does look like he might be able to pull that off, although we'll probably have to recharge at one point, particularly also with the insane amount of extra fuel that we're carrying here, 6 kilograms. We can keep that running for probably 20 laps or so. Well, probably not that many, but you get the idea. We can keep pushing for most of the remainder of the race. But yeah, we have already created a gap down to Hamilton. Hamilton 2 is on medium tires. Now, Leclerc and Russell are both on soft tires, so honestly, staying with them is one thing. Overtaking them would be another. It's going to be a little bit more challenging. So for now, we're just going to recharge. We're going to take it a bit slower. We've still got plenty of, tire temp to go on. And we do also have DRS that will allow us to stay with them while we do this kind of recharging. So everything is looking good. I still want to probably stay behind them for one more lap. Then we can try and launch an attack and get away. But yeah, if these mediums last until lap 40, what is my options in terms of strategy? Let's have a quick look at that. So let's say lap 40 is what we're looking at. Maybe 39. Attack is definitely out of the window, but we can run an aggressive soft strategy that gives us maybe, a little bit of wiggle room here where we can pit a lap earlier if needed. So I think that is just what we're going to have to go for. There's no real rhyme or reason to, doing anything else. And, well, the goal is going to be this lap, I think, with Alonso, is straight up just use DRS to get the back of Russell and Leclerc. And once you're there, you can start pushing a little bit more aggressively and try and get the overtakes done into the last few corners. It's going to be difficult, of course. They are still very aggressive. We are going to allow for high overtake aggression on him here. Unfortunately for us, the incident with Bottas there was on low overtake aggression. But looks like he almost got the move done. Then he got denied, which happens. But he is at least keeping a foot in, or, a tire in it at the moment. So could potentially make it, if he makes his way to a second in the train, which he already has, while we got that warning message. We're going to recharge, get 100% the energy, and then we'll try and overtake the Ferrari. Didn't really see much of an overtake there, but basically he got him on the outside, by the looks of it. But yeah, for now, goal here will be to just sit where we are, recharge a little bit, and once we have recharged in a lap or two, we're going to push everything we have then to take the Ferrari. But as you can see, Leclerc now is already half a second behind, so we're just going to try and send it here. Push. He is going to have the DRS zones, of course, to close the gap again. But I'm hoping that it still was enough, but it doesn't look like it, honestly. We just don't have the gap creating ability that we really would like. So For now, go back to just harvesting. We are going to need 100% of energy here, I think, if we want to create that gap. So we'll sit back, relax, and see if we can come up with a strategy once we have achieved 100% energy. Our strategy might have arrived here. There is a safety car. But it's not one of our three, so we're good on that regard. But the question now is, do we pit? That is the question. I'd say no. Because if we pit, let's say that we do pit here onto that soft and we go full attack. It's going to last, you know, long enough, but if the other cars don't pit, we're going to be in trouble. It's not actually that much slower, so it might actually be a good idea to pit anyways. I think we're going to have to, honestly. The gap here isn't huge, as I said, but I can imagine the soft runners might like to pit here. I can imagine the medium runners might like to pit. Paris is not going to pit. For sure he ain't going to pit. No, we're staying out. We are actually staying out. And the reason for that is that, let's be honest here. Sainz, Hamilton, Perez, Ocon, Show, Gasly, they shouldn't pit here. We saw earlier that pitting under the green would be about 15 seconds. Sorry, pitting under safety car would be about 15 seconds. But even then, even if we pit here, we would come out maybe ahead of Gasly. Ocon, Show, Perez, we come out behind these guys. And they're going to be slow. That's the thing. They're going to be slow for sure. So, I think we just stay on what we're on currently. And that should be fine. If the others want to pit for hards, that's actually going to benefit us. Because they're going to be further down the pack and going to be slowed due to that. Danny Rick versus A. Williams. Ooh. Yeah, that Williams is done for. I really would also like to have a damage report after races like this, where I'm told like, oh, Williams lost an engine, Verstappen lost a gearbox, things like that. That would be neat. Let's see what actually happens here now with the pittings. So, Russell elects to pit, Leclerc says no. Stroll, Hamilton pits. As I said, the hard runners weren't going to pit anyways.
Just looked after the tires.
Which is what we expected. The question here is now going to be, can we create a big enough gap to those hard runners where it actually, you know, will give us an advantage? That's going to be a little bit more of a iffier area. But yeah, it's basically a gamble with a situation like this. We could, of course, have done, as I said, the two-stopper there. But we don't really have any alternatives, so to speak. We're basically going to push these mediums into the abyss. And then we're going to work from there. But yeah. Third race, and apparently we're getting all our safety cars now. Restart is underway.
Safety car in this lap. Safety car in.
It's a bit of a shame that Leclerc didn't pit, but I would really actually have liked him to have done so. But we do need to get him here within the first lap if we want to have any chance of creating a gap big enough to, you know, jump some cars at least during the pit stop. 27 laps to go, sorry. And everyone here on hard tires with the exception of 5 cars. So it should keep things a tad interesting. But yeah, we're already creating a fairly big gap here to Paris. You can see that half a second already. This is interval, so 7/10. And if we keep that going, then we can definitely get into a good position here to have a chance of making something towards the end. Because Ocon, again, hard tires, kind of slow here before the, you know, quicker cars. Leclerc is still going to be the biggest threat, don't get me wrong. But we do have a little bit more to go on in this scenario. And the fact that we got Leclerc here now could mean that we can use the last remainder of our energy to pull outside of his DRS range. And that would be key here if we could do that. But yeah, we don't really have enough energy, I think, to pull that off. Unless we do it without energy.
No overtake.
Nah, it doesn't look like it. But we did at least create a gap to the others. Paris is actually in an amazing position because he has already those hard tires. And it's looking good for him. For now, though, I think we're just going to run with Leclerc. I don't think we really have any choice other than to run with Leclerc because we just can't get away from him. So we'll sit back, relax, and see where we stand once we actually have used these mediums to the point where we can do a pit stop. We are going to pit probably towards the end of its life cycle so we can do the soft stint here on full attack. But I'll experiment a little bit with the strategy to figure out what is our best move. Leclerc just pit, and as you can see, it came out towards the back of the field. We even had Show with a little bit of a spin, that's why it's back there. So that does not, inspire confidence that we're going to have to do a, not last to first, but basically 14th to first challenge potentially here. But yeah, we still could, if we can just make these tires last a little bit longer, hopefully get out ahead of Hulkenberg, but even that is going to be a bit of a challenge here. And we are just going to have to probably go for 3 more laps on these medium tires. In terms of intervals here, as you can see, we're doing 21.4s. Hulkenberg is doing 22, 9s. So they aren't actually super quick. We are getting about a second a lap. And again, if we can just stretch these tires long enough, I think this is just one we're going to have to anyways. Just going to have to go for it here. And hopefully, as I said, if we can beat Hulkenberg out, I think we have a chance of getting back into the lead. Unfortunately, we don't beat them out. We end up in 12th. But still, it is what it is. We gambled. We might have lost. But Alonso here, with fresh softs, should just be flying past most of his opponents. And that is kind of what we are seeing. 12 laps to go, 11 seconds to leader. So it's not as hopeless as it seems, but it's highly going to depend on how quickly and efficiently our boy Alonso here is going to get through his opposition. So if he keeps on doing it like this, where he basically just eats them for breakfast and just keeps on chewing along, then it's looking good. But still, going to be a little bit of a challenge. He, of course, has the drag race car of Albon with him, and that could make things a little bit harder for him. But for now, 2.7 seconds up to Leclerc, and Leclerc might actually be our biggest bottleneck, because if he gets stuck somewhere, then we're going to have to not only overtake him, but whoever he got stuck with. So he can also end up bridging gaps in the DRS train, like he's doing now for Ocon. And that too is going to make life, more difficult. Ocon, though, immediately luckily fell back enough that we should be getting him here on this straight, I would think. And we kind of do. So we are bridging it forwards. 10 laps to go. 8 seconds. Still viable. But again, a lot of it is going to depend on how quickly we do these overtakes. And let's deploy a little bit of a boost here to get by that Alpine. Next up, Hamilton. Or Gasly again, apparently. But yeah, Gasly came back at us. We still made it work, though. Decides to play it safe here. Could probably have lunch there if we really wanted to. But Hamilton without DRS here should be just, dinner. Might need to harvest a little bit here, though, because I think the lack of energy is why Alonso is being a tad careful. So let's just get this up a little bit more. Sainz and Perez now running out front. We have 6 seconds, 8 laps. Still very, very doable, don't get me wrong. Leclerc now is the next target on our block. He exchanged that for Stroll. We do luckily get him easily, so that is good. Next up is going to be Russell. And then we probably are going to have to take care of Leclerc himself, honestly. And that's going to be a bit more of a painful endeavor. Not really that much we can do here, though. That's the thing. Alonso is on full attack. He is on rally defend. The confidence here should be giving him a massive boost. So Alonso is currently driving his heart out. And with 4.5 seconds, 6 laps to go, Leclerc is, as I said, the bigger threat. So we do have opportunities here. Might not be as hopeless as I kind of, worried about. Might be that we've actually pulled out the best strategy that we could. Because again, the reason why all of these pit was because they had hard tires available to them. We are getting within DRS range of Leclerc. And I think we're going to have to overtake Leclerc here pretty rapidly if we want to have a chance at, the top position here, honestly. And Alonso is already making that move. And he made it stick. That is beautiful. And as you can see, Leclerc's tire is actually more short than us, and he's probably managing a bit more than we are. We are still on just straight up full attack. I think we do want to run a little bit of top up here, just to be on the safe side. We have 4 laps to make this happen. And as long as we have energy, I don't think those old hards are going to have much to say to us in any case. For now, though, if they do run, you know, side by side, that's going to be troublesome. But I do think Alonso has what it takes to get by. We're seeing that very, very shortly here. Because right now, it is formation driving, basically. Oh. Sent it maybe a little bit too hard there. But that could have been a nice move. Okay. 3 laps to go. I'm wondering when we should give him ERS. It's because currently he is looking like he might attack Paris just straight up on his own without any help. We might give him ERS here. And see if he launches it into the corner. Like he did last time. And makes it stick this time. He did. Good. That should be one of the final nails in the coffin. Just one more to go. And honestly, that should have been the final nail in the coffin, is what I meant to say. Because with the DRS on Sainz here, and no chance for him to really get DRS on his own, unless we overtake him, we should be now very, very chill and just kind of fly towards the end of this race. Very, very nice. Still have 1 lap after this one, but the gap is instated. We have a second down to Sainz. Leclerc versus Perez is going to potentially be a little bit of an interesting one, so let's see what he can do. If we can get a double Ferrari podium. Stroll, good race from him. Albon is up in 8th, so I guess good job from them, staying out of trouble. Fastest lap here gets snatched by Show, which means that no one is going to get that point. But yeah, looks like Leclerc is not going to be able to get Perez here because Sainz is kind of protecting his child at this point, I guess. Well, protecting Perez with DRS. Or rather than protecting, he just can't get rid of Perez. I guess is a better way to look at it. But yeah, Alonso wins. Australia, then we have Sainz, Perez, Leclerc. Stroll should come in 5th. Then we have Russell, Hamilton, Albon, Ocon, Gasly. So good recovery from the Alpine boys, both being out in Q1, sorry. I don't know why I keep getting them confused. But I'd say this is a decent recovery from us, considering the madness here of 2 safety cars and a red flag. Shame what happened with Bottas, but we'll have a look at his car and see exactly how damaged it is, because that sucks, straight up. Now, Alonso does move into, you know, more dominant first position here. 20 points now on Bottas. Perez up into 2nd, Sainz up into 4th. Verstappen falls down to 5th. So yeah, bit of a rough one there. We'll have to see if the Red Bull Ferrari is going to end up being a fight, or if we get a driver fight at all. Might just be me being a tad too hopeful here. But it is what it is. Alonso with a quick pit stop. As you can see, we still have a pretty significant pit stop advantage over the rest of the pack. This is usually what you like to... Not really what you like to, but this is usually what you see after a race weekend anyways, in terms of the top 10 pit stops. Even this one might be a tad too quick. So, it's good, honestly. We looking decent. And I remember that Porsche exists. I have been. Do want to race the man for the future to make this game more interesting long term. Suspension design complete. We could manufacture it. But I think what we're going to do is make another one, as I said. We're going to do another suspension design. And this is basically going to be the final one. Before we start doing research. So we'll do something like this. As you can see, currently we have 0 brake cooling on car 1. It's lacking the brakes. But as you can see, even doing it like this, it's going to be a small boost to everything. Again, this is the 2nd iteration, so it's not a huge boost. But it is a small boost that's going to help us. There we are. Now, we're missing some car parts, we have some problems, we'll have a look exactly at the damage. But as you can see, chassis, front wing, rear wing, and suspension got destroyed. That gearbox is gone. ERS took about 20% damage, the engine about 10. So although those bumps were pretty light, they did a massive amount of damage to our components. And the front wing and suspension failed for the other car too. So we're going to have to do a little bit of, you know, getting back up to track there. Behrman wins with Amos and Cowell on the podium. Manuel Correa wins in F3 with Colapinto and Colette on the podium. The suspension side, we've already gone through that, and we have some fighting here between Chan and Bottas, so we're going to go ahead and intervene. It seems to be just the better option in my opinion, but I could be wrong. And we're going to go ahead and just replace those parts that were damaged, and we are going to have to manufacture a new one. So for this one, we can just install a new chassis in Bottas' car. Front wing, we're just going to go ahead and install it, manufacture 2 new ones. We're going to need more of those after all. Install a new rear wing, manufacture another one, and for the side pods here, again, this is a cooling one with small drops if we feel like we need it. Might need to make those later in the season to make the parts last till the end, but generally not a big deal. Now we could make one of these suspensions just to carry us through, and I think we're just going to make 2 of these because we could have incidents during the next few races before the next one is done. Even though Baku is in 25 days, it's still just a safety concern, safety measure at this point. But I do believe that keeps us, up to date on our parts, which is good. And I think with that, we are going to be ending today's part. I really want to get Baku in it too, but it'll just have to be an extra for next episode. As I said, the goal here is going to be to cut these episodes into 4. But we had a bit of an interesting season opener. I didn't think it would be this eventful. And, well, the first 3 races have been fun. But we'll see if they keep on being as fun going forwards. Might have to make bigger episodes. Hopefully you've still enjoyed. Hopefully you still have fun. Hope to see you next time. And if you've enjoyed this, please do like. It helps me out a ton. And hopefully I'll see you around next time. Bye bye.